I'm glad that you have agreed to take the test regarding, whether you have alcohol problems. I'm glad you agreed with me to do that. You still haven't answered my final question. Do you know, Mr. Director, that it is a crime to lie to Congress? Do you know that?
I do not lie to Congress.
I didn't ask you that.
And you're insinuating that I am because
I asked you whether you know.
You want to correct your time in this session where you got steamrolled by the facts so you can have a Twitter narrative so you can go raise more money and spend more money on $7,000 bar tabs.
Just let the record
I'm not
show,
going to give
Mr.
it
Chairman.
to you.
The Director of the FBI apparently does not want to answer the question about whether or not it's a crime to lie to Congress, and I find that extremely troubling.
I find it troubling that you lie to the American people every day.
You are a disgrace, Mr. Director.
Not nearly as
Every citizen in this country ought to witness the remarkable events that unfolded within that Senate chamber on May 12, 2026. The footage you just viewed was no spontaneous flare-up, but rather the culmination of a meticulously orchestrated clash involving Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen and FBI Director Kash Patel. The lawmaker did not merely label the country's chief law enforcement officer a massive embarrassment on impulse. He delivered that remark after Patel continually dodged a straightforward inquiry regarding whether deceiving Congress constitutes a federal offense, all while both men openly exchanged allegations of dishonesty right there on the floor. Officially, this gathering was designated as a standard committee meeting, focused entirely on reviewing the financial requests for the FBI heading into fiscal year 2027. In practice, however, it morphed into a highly visible showdown concerning rumors that had been swirling for weeks regarding assertions that the director's private behavior was severely hindering his leadership of the agency, alongside defensive arguments that his political opponents were exploiting press narratives and historical partisan disputes to destroy his credibility. The primary issue our analysis explores today is straightforward yet deeply consequential, examining exactly why this specific dialogue intensified to a level where an active legislator stared down the head of the FBI and publicly declared him a disgrace for the official transcript. We need to figure out exactly what underlying information was already circulating in the background before the gavel even dropped to start the session. We will uncover which specific documents, legal battles, and previous media remarks caused that ultimate inquiry to strike with such devastating impact. Furthermore, we must determine what this explosive interaction exposes regarding the much broader struggle for transparency and oversight within the Bureau during the current presidential administration. In order to properly address those profound mysteries, we have to rewind the clock and look at the days leading up to this monumental clash. Should you wish to join a dedicated audience that deeply analyzes these proceedings with comprehensive background rather than settling for shallow news snippets, make sure to click the subscribe button and follow our journey.
I want to start with a question that Senator Coons asked you that relates to this article where the headline is Kash Patel's latest firings ousted agents with expertise in Iran. The article says that these individuals were fired for their role in the classified documents investigations of Donald Trump. First of all, is that true?
The article, just like all the other articles you cited, is false, and there's ongoing litigation, so I can't address it.
Okay. You did answer Senator Coons, and I understood your answer to be that the people that were fired, that none of them were part of the group that had Iran expertise. Is that your answer?
No, he asked if they were Iran experts. I said they were not.
Were the group fired? Did it include people who were Iran experts?
No.
Did it include people who were involved in counter-espionage activities with respect to Iran?
I don't have the list in front of me.
So you don't know whether or not you fired people with counter-espionage experience with respect to Iran. You don't know the answer to that question.
I terminated anyone and everyone that weaponized law enforcement.
I see. So it was related, obviously, to the classified documents case. So
that's not what I said.
Well, Director Patel, I understood you to say in response to Senator Murray that you've not redirected FBI resources toward the immigration enforcement effort.
That's not what I said.
Okay. Have you redirected resources away from your core FBI responsibilities toward the mass deportation effort?
No one at the FBI has been permanently reassigned on the immigration front, and when we pull the numbers, the FBI's overall operational field expenditures surged periodically for immigration enforcement activities, including the arrest of 2,000 people with direct ties to foreign terrorist organizations, was 2.4%.
So, okay, so the key word there, I guess, was permanently. You have not permanently reassigned. Is that what you reassigned temporarily?
Surges, yes, sir.
However, the inquiries regarding staffing and funding only become entirely clear once you grasp the information that had already surfaced in the press and the legal system. During the middle of April 2026, which was approximately a month prior to this congressional session, a major publication released an extensive report relying on over 20 unnamed insiders. This feature asserted that the director struggled with heavy intoxication, that morning briefings were frequently postponed due to late nights of drinking, and that his protective team struggled to contact him on several occasions, even resulting in a supposed call for forced entry tools. The publication positioned these assertions as serious concerns regarding his capability to execute his duties and as potential risks to the safety of the nation. The pushback from Patel was instantaneous and fierce. Acting through his legal team, he issued a formal warning to the media outlet prior to the story going live. A few days following that, he launched a $250 million libel claim in a District of Columbia federal court, branding the report a vindictive smear campaign and completely rejecting the accusations. The magazine maintained the accuracy of its journalism and declared its intention to aggressively fight the legal challenge in court. This massive litigation remained unresolved at the exact moment Patel entered the room for the Appropriations Committee showdown. Consequently, when the senator started grilling him regarding his behavior, missed days, and if specific terminations were linked to prior probes into Donald Trump, both individuals were fully aware that the narrative was already fraught with fierce legal disputes. There remained an entirely distinct issue surrounding the situation of Brian Driscoll. This veteran bureau executive, who briefly held the position of interim leader, ultimately filed a lawsuit following his termination from the agency. Legal documents and public remarks connected to him alleged that the director had mentioned facing demands regarding employees who had investigated matters concerning the former commander-in-chief. The lawmaker pointedly questioned whether the director had taken the time to read through the allegations made by Driscoll. The head of the agency testified that he had not looked at them. This specific back and forth fits into a much broader trend of staffing conflicts that liberal lawmakers characterized as partisan cleanouts, while executive branch officials defended them as essential adjustments to fix what they labeled a highly politicized government machine. Absolutely none of this crucial historical context was explicitly detailed for the audience sitting inside that legislative chamber. It remains the essential backdrop that escalated standard congressional scrutiny into a significantly more intense confrontation.
Have you had a chance to listen to or read about Brian Driscoll's statements about what you said to him and the reasons for his firing?
No, I have not, sir.
So let me just say this, Mr. Director. In your response to me earlier, where you had a little bit of a blow-up, you made a couple provably false statements.
So did you.
No, Mr. Director, I was reading about and asking you to respond to allegations that are made. In fact, I was giving you an opportunity to do that, and you took that opportunity. But in the process, you made these provably false statements that I know are sort of like urban legend in right-wing media about margaritas in El Salvador, which is provably false. And so coming from the mouth of an FBI director to make provably false statements in a hearing like this is extremely troubling. And it leads me to ask whether or not the other things you've been saying are false statements. And so because that's a provably false statement. You made a couple others that are provably false. And this is from the mouth of the FBI director.
The only one that made false statements is you.
My final question to you, Mr. Director, is do you know that it is a crime to lie to Congress? Do you know that? That's my last question.
I have not lied to Congress.
I didn't ask you that.
The one that lied to Congress is you.
I'm not testifying here, sir, and I don't lie.
Maybe the next.
The mention of margaritas was not fabricated on the spot, as it refers to an actual incident from April 2025. the senator from Maryland journeyed to El Salvador to converse with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a local resident whom the government had expelled in defiance of a judicial mandate. The administration of President Nayib Bukele subsequently released pictures of their gathering, which seemingly displayed beverages looking like margaritas resting on the table. The lawmaker quickly denounced the setup as entirely orchestrated, explaining that only water and coffee were there originally before foreign officials introduced the extra cups that nobody consumed, all in an attempt to project a deceptive atmosphere of relaxation. He ultimately dubbed the entire controversy as Margarita Gate. During the committee session, the director handled those pictures and the accompanying right-leaning press coverage as undeniable truth, wielding them to turn the intoxication allegations directly against the legislator. In response, the senator dismissed this portrayal as a demonstrably untrue myth, perpetuated by conservative news outlets. Both parties possessed publicly available evidence to reference, given that the physical pictures are real and the immediate defensive remarks from the senator are fully documented. However, there is a complete lack of objective video footage or impartial witness accounts that can conclusively determine if the beverages were actually consumed or merely placed there for show. Consequently, the disagreement persisted as a partisan tool rather than an established historical truth. A remarkably similar dynamic emerged regarding the $7,000 alcohol bill accusation that arose further into their dialogue. The agency had brought this up to highlight the supposed lavish habits of the elected official. The senator countered by clarifying that the event was a private team gathering for around 50 individuals, completely funded without the use of taxpayer dollars. Once more, the specific financial amount seems to align with an actual purchase, yet the narrative surrounding the funding source and its ultimate intention stayed heavily disputed. Whenever the leader of a top federal law enforcement agency and an experienced legislator charge one another with deceit in the exact same room, the foundational truth of those disagreements carries immense weight. This particular hearing completely failed to settle those matters, serving only to cement them into the congressional transcript through the most hostile manner imaginable.
I have not lied to Congress.
I didn't ask you that.
Lied to Congress is you.
I'm not testifying here, sir, and I don't lie.
Maybe the next time you run up a $7,000 bar tab, we can talk about it.
Well, see, there you go, lying again. You suggested
in the FEC report. I'll post it right now.
You suggested it was public. It wasn't public money, as you know. That was for a 50-member staff party.
So it was a $7,000 bar tab.
Mr. Patel, I'm glad. Let me just say in closing, Mr. Chairman, two things. I'm glad that you have agreed to take the test regarding, whether you have alcohol problems. I'm glad you agreed with me to do that. You still haven't answered my final question. Do you know, Mr. Director, that it is a crime to lie to Congress? Do you know that?
I do not lie to Congress.
I didn't ask you that.
And you're insinuating that I am.
I asked you whether you know.
You want to correct your time in this session where you got steamrolled by the facts so you can have a Twitter narrative so you can go raise more money and spend more money on $7,000 bar tabs.
Just let the record
I'm not
show,
going to give
Mr.
it
Chairman.
to you.
The director.
At this stage of the proceedings, the initial policy inquiries regarding Iranian intelligence, funding reallocations for border security, and staffing choices had been completely overshadowed by a battle over trustworthiness. The senator's game plan is obvious when reading the official record, as he handled the previous character attacks as outright lies delivered by the agency head in a sworn environment. He subsequently weaponized that assertion to legitimize questioning if the director comprehended the severe legal consequences of deceiving federal lawmakers. The director continually reacted by rejecting the accusation of perjury instead of straightforwardly addressing the inquiry about his legal awareness. Within the lawmaker's narrative, that specific deflection ultimately provided the foundation for calling him a total embarrassment. From the director's perspective, the back and forth appears entirely different. He approached the magazine's assertions as debunked or highly disputed within the legal system, viewed the Central American incident as proof that his liberal opponents were the actual ones engaging in partisan grandstanding, and saw the relentless grilling as a calculated effort to generate viral social media outrage for campaign donations. His defensive maneuvers were intentionally crafted to push the senator into a corner regarding his own questionable behavior. The written record does not reveal a decisive victory for anyone. Rather, it highlights two powerful figures who completely lacked faith in one another's basic honesty and were eager to make the conflict intensely personal for the viewing audience. The mutual pact regarding a sobriety assessment that emerges toward the conclusion, where the director consented to a screening provided the senator participated equally, serves as an incredibly telling finale. That moment transforms a very grave accusation regarding professional competency into a theatrical partisan dare. The more profound problem remains fundamentally systemic. Whenever the chief of federal law enforcement and a senior legislator on a funding panel dedicate massive amounts of time to trading accusations of deceit, everyday citizens are abandoned without an agreed-upon reality to judge either the initial press reports or the administrative choices of the agency.
The FBI apparently does not want to answer the question about whether or not it's a crime to lie to Congress, and I find that extremely troubling.
I find it troubling that you lie to the American people every day.
You are a disgrace, Mr. Director.
Not nearly as big as you.
The fact that you can't answer that question, that concludes my questioning, Mr. Chairman, but I'm obviously very troubled.
Why does this hold significance beyond one volatile afternoon inside a legislative chamber? Primarily, it highlights the incredibly fragile foundation of faith remaining between the current Bureau executives and their liberal congressional monitors. Claims of private misbehavior, once printed and actively fought in court, refuse to remain confined to legal filings. They inevitably infiltrate all future congressional reviews. Additionally, this situation illuminates the highly reciprocal dynamic defining modern partisan warfare. Left-leaning lawmakers perceive a clear trend of staffing decisions based purely on allegiance, alongside a White House that views unfavorable journalism as hostility-demanding aggressive legal suppression. Conservative officials within the executive branch recognize a persistent bureaucratic rebellion that, from their perspective, previously tried to prosecute a commander-in-chief and currently aims to destroy his hand-picked agency chief through unnamed sources and fabricated indignation. Finally, this intense dialogue fails to settle several fundamental logistical inquiries. The defamation battle against the magazine moves forward, the employment lawsuits connected to Brian Driscoll persist, debates concerning funding shifts toward border security depend entirely on interpreting long-term versus temporary deployments, and American citizens remain without an objective evaluation regarding whether these intoxication rumors actually impact agency operations. Past historical examples remain scarce, yet highly educational. Former leaders of the Bureau have certainly endured aggressive legislative interrogations, though incredibly few have been officially labeled an embarrassment by an elected official during a session where both individuals openly traded allegations of deceit. Such extreme verbal escalation serves as a metric regarding the hostility of our modern partisan environment, rather than functioning as any sort of judicial conclusion. Near the start of this presentation, we questioned exactly why the interaction concluded with the Maryland senator branding the director an absolute embarrassment and what this showdown truly exposes. Following a thorough review of the actual committee session, the spring magazine publication alongside its resulting $250 million legal action, the diplomatic trip to Central America featuring contradictory arguments over orchestrated pictures, the employment controversies involving a former executive, and the distinctly personal manner in which both figures waged this battle. The overall narrative becomes much more transparent. Regarding established facts, the official transcript demonstrates the lawmaker pushing a specific inquiry concerning the illegality of deceiving the legislature, while the agency chief continually deflected by insisting he never committed perjury. Furthermore, the documentation reveals shared charges of dishonesty revolving around the foreign travel incident and a significant alcohol expense that is still fiercely debated today. The foundational journalistic claims regarding the director's private behavior are currently locked in ongoing court battles, and no judge has officially determined their factual accuracy yet. In terms of broader implications, this clash provides undeniable proof of a total collapse in foundational confidence existing between the top federal law enforcement officer and a crucial liberal oversight figure. Whether this institutional fracture stems mainly from valid competency worries, partisan revenge tactics, journalistic sensationalism, or a toxic mixture of every factor combined, it remains a topic of fierce debate. This congressional gathering completely failed to resolve any underlying factual disagreements. It merely rendered the mutual suspicion absolutely impossible to overlook. The next chapter of this saga relies entirely upon judicial rulings, upcoming legislative inquiries, and whether anyone steps forward to supply transparent, authenticated proof that pushes everyday citizens past these warring partisan storylines. Should you have observed this interaction and formulated an alternative perspective regarding who held the upper hand, or what the official transcript genuinely demonstrates, please share your thoughts below. Additionally, if you wish to remain engaged with an audience dedicated to analyzing these events with complete context rather than fragmented sound bites, consider subscribing to the channel.